Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the December 19th meeting of the Wareham School Committee. Tonight's meeting is being recorded by video by WCTV, and Ms. Ruiz is making an audio recording. If anyone else is recording this meeting, you just need to notify the chair. Just raise your hand if you are. Okay, seeing none. And with that, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. Flags over there. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item on the agenda is public comment. Does anyone wish to speak before the committee? Seeing none. Good news. Anyone on the committee have good news? Ms. Morgan.
I do. Just learned from the state that they're going to start reimbursing us through circuit breaker for our out-of-district transportation.
Yeah, that's really good news.
Yep.
Yeah, that was a welcome surprise. They're phasing it in. I think the first year's 25%.
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
But that's this year's. That's
Right.
this year. I mean, we won't see it till next year, but it's this
Right.
year's costs. That's great.
Yep.
Ms. Rossi.
So just want to acknowledge that the Turning Point of Wareham has been using the old co-op building this holiday season, and they are still accepting non-perishable goods and toys for those families who may need it this holiday season. So it's right next to the track by the old Boys and Girls Club if anyone would be interested in helping out Turning Point.
Dr. Shaverhood.
Yes, on Wednesday, this past Wednesday, Mr. Murray, teacher at the high school, was at lunch duty, and he had to perform the Heimlich maneuver on a young lady and basically saved her life. So thank you, Mr. Murray. We are very happy that you were there.
Wow, that's great. Wow, awesome. Anyone else have any good news? Tough to beat that one. Joyce?
I just wanted to say thank you to the members of the Selectmen and the Finance Committee who met with us last week for the budget hearing. The budget's been a collaborative effort, and I just want to say thank you.
Yeah. So we met last week as a public hearing, but we haven't met as a regular school committee meeting since November 14th, I think. This is our first real meeting since then. So, yeah, it was good to see those guys. I'm always happy when we get together. And a lot of them showed up at the initial, all-day meeting, too. Yeah. All right. Any other good news? Okay. Report of the student. Oops, sorry. Back up. Acknowledging students with exemplary MCAS scores.
If Mr. Palladino, if you would like to start.
Thank you. So tonight we're going to recognize students who took the MCAS in grades 7 through 10 last year. And I do want to preface this by saying I was just at the high school, and there's a lot going on. So I know there's a few students that are involved in practices that aren't able to make it here tonight. And our track team also has a meet. So there's quite a few kids that unfortunately are not able to make it here tonight, but trust me, they're still involved in the school. So I'm going to call up all the students in alphabetical order and ask them to stand on the stage representing the high school, starting off with Anna Amberick, Armin Arujo, Jakari August, Cecilia Botino, Madison Booton, Anna Boylan Shukran, Alexander Bumpus, Keegan Cahill. Come on up, Armin, you can start us off. Keegan Cahill, Caitlin Kavakis, Joseph Clements, Laura Clements, Coral Davis, Julia DeMedeiros, Lucas DeMoranville, Stoney Ferry, James Fitzgerald, Avery Gilman, Cooper Goodwin, Jasmine Goodmanson, Eliza Huff, James Houghton Jr., Miriam Karam, Emerson Kearns, Janelle Camora, Savannah Lake, Alexandra Lambert, Jabnel Lozada Santana, Sophia Maniglia, Michael Miranda, Bryce Molding, Kinsey Navarro, Matthew Nowojcik, Chatham Norcross, Wayne Parker Jr., our student rep, Emily Roberge, Isabella Russo, Malachi Samuels, Annabelle Snow, Ava Sullivan, Kylie Sullivan, and Indiana Troop. These students who are representing Wareham High School, and I want to congratulate them on a job well done. These As was mentioned, many of these students scored exemplary, and some of these students were still involved in the Legacy MCAS and scored advanced. Congratulations to all, job well done, and if you can stay there for, I'm sure we want to get a couple pictures, myself included.
So, Mr. Palladino, that was grades 7 through
Currently 8 through 11,
8
but the
through-
test was last year, so
True.
technically 7th
Wow.
through 10th last year.
I heard a lot of names, and some of them weren't here, so how many total was that?
I believe it was 42 total.
Wow, that's amazing.
It was a great group.
Yeah, that's great. Awesome.
Thank you.
Mrs. Cote for the middle school.
Welcome, everyone, and thank you for coming. This is quite a feat to get exceeding expectations on MCAS, formerly known as advanced. In grade 5 for advanced, exceeding expectations in math, we have Finley Kearns. Finley, if you're here, please come up. For exceeding expectations in ELA in grade 5, Athena Lawson Barbone. Exceeding expectations in ELA, Rylan Potter. Moving on to grade 6, exceeding expectations in ELA, Abigail Bolano, Ryan Dame, Jordan Johnson, Kane Oliveira. Exceeding expectations for grade 6 in math, Samantha Baptiste, Tyler Bessie, Brody Grillo, Savannah Winslow. Exceeding expectations in science, Sienna Cabe. And exceeding expectations in grade 6 in both ELA and science, Daniela Amizian, Sophia Charalucci. Grade 7, exceeding expectations for ELA, Zora Andrews, Jessica Black, Bianca Bourne, Mackenzie Kane, Avery DeMello, Nevaeh Fernandez, Evelyn Francis, Jalen Harrington, Dominic Hurley, Andrew Nee, Lane Potter, Amber Roberts, Sophia Santarpio, Michael Semio, Devin St. Germain, and Brandon Tremblay. Exceeding expectations for math, Brady Reardon. Exceeding expectations for math and ELA, quite a feat, Aiden Jones. Emma McWilliams. Ritza Rakutu Aramantra Bunting. Charlotte Roy. And I saved this lady for last. I'm not sure if she's here, but I am very proud of her. In 6th grade, the expectations for ELA changes greatly. The reading and the analysis and the writing is immense from 5th grade to 6th grade. This young lady had a perfect score in ELA. Perfect. Every single thing she did on ELA MCAS was perfect. She also scored exceeding expectations in math. Felicity DeSola. Congratulations, and I thank all of the parents for supporting us and coming out on this cold night. All right, good job.
For Minot Forest School, these are students who took MCAS for the first time ever in grade 3. They're now grade 4 students. For ELA, come on down, Camden Aguilar. Scott Kreitz. Caden Rodriguez Urachuk. Ryan Stahl. Emma LaPlante. Corinne Roberts. Ingrid Bowden. Liam Phillips. Amelia Benson. Jordan Wolosky. For ELA, Amelia Benson also received a perfect score. For math, we have, again, Amelia Benson, Andrew DeLore, Tyler Cannon, Amber Bessie, Eric Tomkowitz, Joshua Gifford, and in math, Tyler Cannon earned a perfect score. Congratulations to our Minot students. As I said, 3rd grade's the first, it's where it all starts. I'm going to come by and I'm going to give you all a fist bump because I'm getting a cold.
Thank you very much for coming, especially in the cold weather. That was what it's really all about, just recognizing our kids. That's what we're here for.
That was adorable. They were so cute. Perfect scores.
We're just taking a moment while everyone piles out.
There's more than there's a
Really?
Look at look at all them. Yeah. I mean, love, but
Remember when we first started, there was like a hand?
yes, that's what I just said. I can't believe how it's in perfect score. No, it's like it's just amazing. And the young ones.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
just
Okay.
they're doing it. They mentioned it. We're doing it.
Yeah.
Take pictures of
Yeah.
them, you know, if you do it, somebody could say that
Yeah,
you were chasing somebody else.
right, yeah.
Now it looks like you just heard me.
Yeah, no, it's just my husband bugging me.
Call me.
For those at home, this room was pretty full. Not sure if you saw that, but this room was pretty full with a lot of proud parents and students. Still waiting for them to head out before we move on. And with that, we'll have the report of the student representative.
All right, who am I reporting to now?
We're still here.
So, it's truly the season to be giving when the Honor Society and Key Club is sponsoring 3 DCF kids from our community. Things like toys, clothes, and art supplies were donated by high school students will be distributed on Saturday to families for the holidays. The students at the high school feel heard after a survey was sent out asking for our input on what things are working well and what things aren't in regards to our current bell schedule. Now, sports. The basketball team won 67-63 against ORR last Friday, and there's a game at Somerset Berkeley at 6:30 tomorrow. Also, the hockey team had their first win of the season last Sunday, beating Upper Cape 10-4. The boys and girls track team has a meet against Seekonk that started about half an hour ago. Everyone is excited for the holiday break, so happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you, and actually, you kind of reminded me of something. I wish I remembered to mention on the good news. I did attend that play, Proof, by the Viking Theater Club, and as always, they do such a great job, and I look forward to everything they put out, and I encourage anyone else to go to it whenever they have it. So with that, we're going to move on to the minutes of the meeting, November 14th, 2019, November 21st, 2019, and December 12th, 2019. And I guess I'd like to have a vote to take this as a slate and then vote on them if that works for everybody, unless you want to do them individually.
I just have a question about one of them. So,
Yeah.
as long as I can still ask a question. then-
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So can I have a motion to accept all three as a slate? Not to accept, but to vote on all three as a slate.
So moved.
There's actually 2 sets, just so you know, of November 14th, because we had 2 separate meetings.
Right, I said, so yes, okay, yeah, so
you
there's,
know, it is the same date.
you know, you're right, because we met early and then we met normally. So yeah, November 14th, there's 2 sets, and then November 21 is 1 set, and November 12th is 1 set. So four separate meeting minutes.
Okay.
So do I have a motion to vote as a slate?
So moved.
Second it.
All right, so motion and second. Any further discussion on the slate?
I do have,
Well, we're gonna just do it as the slate, then we'll vote on the actual minutes.
oh, sorry, okay.
Okay, no problem. So all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Voting as a slate passes 5-0-0. So now onto the motion to accept the minutes. Anyone have any comments or questions? Ms.
No.
Bakayaki, go ahead.
On November 14th, it says that Chair Flaherty asked Mrs. Bakayaki and Mrs. Morgan to get together to review these budget priorities and the previous discussion of this evening on school committee procedures and goals. I don't recall that. We talked about doing the superintendent evaluation subcommittee, but I don't remember, so,
That's my recollection as well.
okay.
I vaguely remember what this was in regards to. It was in regards to, after the MASC conference, we mentioned that other school committees had their own budget priorities, and we voted, or we discussed the possibility of a subcommittee to identify the school committee's budget priorities, and I believe that's what that was alluding to.
I recall that conversation, but it wasn't at this point in this meeting. I think it was at a different time. So,
Could you tell me where,
it's on page 7,
on which set of minutes?
November 14th, the regular meeting. like 3 or 4 sentences up from the bottom. I just thought it was one of those things that I didn't remember again.
So are you asking that to be changed?
I think so. I'm pretty sure, unless you volunteered me for something that I didn't know.
No.
Yeah, I guess I would ask that that sentence be taken out.
It be deleted.
Yes.
All right, so that's a motion.
Okay, so I
Right.
make a motion that we delete that sentence.
Is there a second?
Second it.
So, all right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500. Anything further on all 4 separate minutes? Seeing none, we'll take a vote to approve as amended.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500. Moving on to the vote on WEA Unit C Paraprofessional Agreement.
Yes, thank you to Mrs. Spear and Mrs. Bakayaki, who served on the negotiation committee. The WEA Unit C has voted. They unanimously ratified the contract. This is a 3-year contract beginning September 1, 2019 through August 31st, 2022. It was a 2% across the board. We made some salary adjustments as far as with the steps to bring everything in order. We've been through it. If you have any questions, happy to answer it. If not, I would ask the committee to please make the vote to ratify.
Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussions, any questions? Ms. Bakayaki?
I don't have any questions. I just want to say thank you to the reps from the union who were present at the negotiations. I enjoy all the negotiations that I've been involved with. It's really an opportunity to learn. And so I just want to say thank you to those that were there.
Okay. And how many times do you guys think you guys met?
Quite a few.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, it's interesting, so from the public's point of view, you guys see us come up here, a whole contract is being voted on right now, and it almost looks like, you know, there's no thought been put into it, but all that thought is behind the scenes, and we've all deliberated this, and we're all comfortable with it, so we're gonna take a vote at this time, but there's a lot of work that goes into these negotiations, a lot. I gotta say, I wasn't on this one, but I think we've got a great relationship with all of our unions, honestly, I really do, and I'm happy for that. That said, we have a motion and a second, so all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the request for hearing by Wareham Tigers field usage, Mr. Solomon et al. Just if you don't mind speaking your names for the record.
David Solomon.
And
Jared Chadwick.
thank you for coming. Just so you guys know, they requested a hearing before us, and they followed the procedure, and anyone can do this. If you want to actually show up as an agenda item on the agenda, you just have to ask. You have to give 7 days notice and send you whatever you've got, you know, and they've done that. So I'm happy you're using the process. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, let me start off by saying, some of you may not know me. For those that don't, my name is Jared Chadwick. I am the president of the Wareham Tigers Athletic Association. I've been part of this program for about 4 years, and the reason we're here today is we're running into multiple troubles with acquiring fields for the youth of this town, and on top of that, the prices for the youth of this town, for them to play on the fields that, with all due respect, that we're already paying for. I think that's our biggest issue right now is, I'm coming at you guys with some numbers that excuse me for a second here, coming at you guys with some numbers that we've been providing for cost of the fields, stuff that we've stepped up and paid for. In return, I'm going to pass this over to Damon real quick because he's better at talking than I am. So he's got some numbers for you guys.
I don't know if this is on. I don't think it is. Should I just use this
Yeah.
one? Okay. Good evening. So, just to paint the picture, is that the Tigers organization, since 1962, have been the premier youth football league, as well as chair in the town. And with that being said, we're 100% volunteer based. We solely rely on volunteers and we solely rely on fundraising. And demographically, we are limited with with registration fees that we can charge. As we know, in the area, the median income is in subpar, not up to par to surrounding communities, if you will. So we have a real limitation what we could charge in order to maintain our numbers and best reach the youth in this town. So with that said, our registration fees are low. Our registration fees are low to facilitate that previous statement. And what happens for us is that we can't afford the luxuries that other towns can afford in regards to field usages and so forth. So what we were approached with, I believe Mr. Flattery had presented all the correspondence between the superintendent's office and Ms. Ruiz, who has been a pleasure, by the way, to deal with. She's a great assistant, and I do appreciate the conversations we have, and she's been helpful. And I know all she's doing is she's reading a guideline, she's applying said guidelines and presenting those to us. So, but I believe Mr. Flattery presented all the correspondence that showed all the tangibles in regards to what we have for costs to the fields and what we've been charged at the Tigers organization. As the Tigers organization, we've been charged, I think it was an error at first, Ms. Ruiz had fixed it, in excess of $20,000 for the year between two programs, a tackle football program and cheer program, and as well as field usage for flag football. Clearly, I mean, those numbers were astronomical in the history of the Wareham Tigers, as well as uses of these fields. So that raised a lot of eyebrows, especially with the board, and Ms. Ruiz had made an adjustment, and and that was also in the correspondence in the email. And those adjustments were based on a daily rate opposed to hourly. And I believe those were actually placed from the school committee, voted those in, that rate scale. I want the impression that was voted in by the school committee, which to some degree is, we can understand it as well. I mean, things cost things. However, I think what's missing out of those numbers is the applicable volunteerism and selflessness that we incur in regards to sustaining both facilities and fields while we use them. And we do that a lot, not just as just a random nonprofit organization. We do that as residents of Wareham and invested individuals in the community of Wareham. So those numbers, if we're as regards to $3,400 we have from our previous year, our fall of this year, $3,400 is still the most we've ever paid for usage of fields in years to come, or years past, excuse me. And the numbers there, plus some numbers in regards to our upcoming flag football season, it was another $3,500. I'm sorry, I don't have the email in front of me, but that as well is another number that we've never paid in the past in regards to the Tigers. We just simply, and long story short, we can't afford it. So we fundraise, we keep the cost down. I have a whole bunch of numbers I can throw at you if you want some facts. But really what it boils down to is that the numbers that we get in between the low, medium income and the lack of parent volunteerism to help us fundraise in the process of doing that as well. We see. Sorry, I don't know if that was me. Sorry, but so because of that, we're really limited in funds, and we just want to also paint the picture of that when we, Jared here, him and I both have done, years of past 4 years, we kind of essentially took over and turned the Tigers around from previous blemishes, if you will. And we've made great strides in increasing both our numbers, increasing the rapport that we had, and the rapport that I grew up knowing. So with that being said, he selflessly has devoted a lot of personal time and money. For instance, Palmer Field, we had graded the Palmer Field twice, and Jared's actually a contractor and has a business of doing property management. He has machines that he rents out. However, he took the time and fuel and mechanical costs to grade Palmer's parking lot, which we all know if you parked in that parking lot is pretty much you need four-wheel drive to get in and out of that parking lot at times. He took the time, free of charge, took care of that, not once but twice. We had some low spots in Palmer Field that needed to get filled in. Jared and I both, mainly Jared at times, we would take out loom, fill those low spots. The lights over the soccer field, we had donated from parents of the Tigers, were electricians. They donated lights and bulbs for the soccer field that's on Vikings Drive to make sure we had lights at night for the players.
So we also took those lights, we also put them up. We had a contractor come in with his machinery, come in and rewire all the lights at the soccer field.
So, and then to further reinforce the facts, we have also the concession stand, the new concession stand that's in place. In excess of, Jared went out and got $500 worth of donation and materials from Home Depot. And he also had Dylan Toll Electrical wire the entire concession stand, along with the labor rate of that would in excess be just $1,200 alone. And the Tigers paid him out of our pocket $1,000 to wire the snack shack, which we're being charged to use, I might add. Along with the old snack shack that was in place, we demoed that as well and removed that off the field.
We're not charged to use the snack shack.
What's that? What you charge for the Spillane?
Yes, for the snack.
Right, Spillane. So, just to clarify, the snack shack, there is no separate rate for the snack shack. We're talking about the times we use Spillane, we're being charged for those fields. We talked about the soccer field, talked about the parents, we talked about Palmer Field. The track is the only field we don't maintain, but the track is the field that we will be using in spring. We, in short, are hoping that, based on these facts, that we can come to a number that's not just a blanket policy that's being placed on our organization, to somehow come to a plan where it's less scripted, if you will, in regards to just having a policy where the Tigers organization or any nonprofit comes to town that's not as vested as we are, both in the volunteerism and the selflessness that we incurred, that we can possibly come to some sort of other agreement so we're not paying an excess of $7,000 to $10,000 on average per year just to use fields in which we're actually helping maintain.
Before I open up to the committee, is there anything you wanted to say, Dr. Shea? Go ahead.
We certainly have appreciated what the Tigers have done and continue to do for the fields, the concession stand. I know you were a lifesaver when we were trying to get the concession stand open, so we greatly appreciate that. The other piece is, I would agree that it's a very limited pool on what we can do to raise money for organizations, because we experienced that in the district. You take from the same people time and time again, and that's a hardship. So I would hope that the committee would agree to come up with some kind of an exchange for the use of our fields. That's a help to us, because we're also shorthanded.
Ms. Rossi?
So I had been a previous board member for the Wareham Tigers for about 6 years and can absolutely attest to the work that they do for the community. And more than half, I believe at times, the students and families that want their children to participate are not financially able, and the board members either step up. We've had board members that have paid it out of their own pocket for kids to be able to play football. We've had the police station in town offer and sponsor kids to work with that as well, because they don't want no child to ever be turned down the opportunity to play in an organized sport. And I've seen the good that that has done for so many kids that need that outlet. And as far as I remember, I'm not sure if you guys are still maintaining and paying for the porta potties at Palmer and the soccer field as well. Are you still doing that?
Don't butt my head.
Yes, we're still maintaining them. They just took them away.
Okay.
And they'll be back again in March.
So since I had resigned from the board to actually run for the school committee, so that is why I'm no longer involved in the Tigers, but it is an integral part of our community, and it also feeds our high school football team. So all of these kids will come up and help fuel our sports in our schools as well. I've never seen, in going through the correspondence that Damon had sent to Chair Flaherty that he forwarded along to us, in the 6 years I was on that board, I never saw a bill with that amount ever for field usage. Granted, the flag program is fairly new, but that is even less of a strain to the field because it's mostly sneakers, it's not cleats, it's not tackling, it's not rolling around in the mud and causing any sort of damage to the field like in poor weather. So I don't know why that would even be during, an off sport for that particular field, why that's even as astronomical as it is. I thought in a previous meeting that we had in the spring that we voted for a different rate for a 503c charity, which the Tigers are. So I don't know if that either wasn't applied or if they weren't noted that they were a 503c charity.
So there's a couple of disjointed threads going on. I mean, I had sent you some stuff because I knew you were involved in the Tigers, and I wanted your input. But then separately, I think Ms. Bakayaki was talking to Ms. Ruiz, and then separately, I asked for the form. I said, I know we voted on this. It was like $20 a day, and you're right. So I mean, it was complete sticker shock. It was like $16,000 for flag football, and Ms. Ruiz acknowledged there was an error, and we weren't using. She was using like the per hour price and not the per day price. And what did it come down to?
$3,640.
So yeah, that's obviously much more. So you didn't have that information.
No, I did not. The last number I saw was a $16,000 bill for field usage.
And because when Ms. Ruiz sent that to me, she copied Ms. Bakayaki, and I didn't want to get into the whole open meeting thing and talk to you about it. And so yeah, you were out of the loop at that point. So I apologize for that. But yeah, so a lot of that's been corrected. But are you done?
No, I just want to, again, reiterate that, Jared and the rest of the volunteers for the Tigers are volunteers. Most of them, it's usually a very limited number of board members that all have parents and, jobs and other children and other responsibilities, but they still step up and are at a field. I mean, I remember being there from 7:30 in the morning, setting up, cleaning up, till 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon on a Sunday. And they also have their players, as well as themselves, picking up the trash after the games, which you don't even see at the high school games. It's the custodian that's doing all that work. The Tigers actually take pride in use of that field and have the kids go around with a trash bag and pick up both the visitor side and the home side to make sure that that field is well maintained.
Dr. Shaver.
I'm sorry, I didn't add the game onto it, so it'd be $4,240, right? Between the practice, I just want to make sure I give the right amount, between the practice and then the game days.
So
We broke
yes,
it down.
we're talking about flag football. Is that what you're talking about, Mr. Superintendent?
Yes.
So that's up for the upcoming flag football season, and that the form when they filled out was based on numbers that we're anticipating, as well as there's also some variables there. Those aren't always going to be days we were using the fields. There's variables I can't pinpoint at the moment as a flag coordinator. I can't tell you exactly what days we're doing it. And the same issue we ran into with the fall season is that there's been, just to kind of paint the picture a little bit, and that is for our previous bill of $3,640, and which we understand there's a game day. We had some custodial fees and stuff like that. And a game day, we were more than happy to pay those invoices.
Yeah.
It's the cumulative rate in regards to practice fields that we're really contesting, because there's days where we don't use a field, and there's really no way to track based on your system what days we're there, what days we're not. There's nobody taking attendance. There's nobody saying the Tigers are there that day. And also want to reiterate the fact that Triple E was a big issue for us this year.
Yes,
So with that Triple E threat, we were limited. We couldn't use your fields past 6 o'clock per the Board of Health. We limited all fields and town public usages to 6 o'clock. And as we all know, after the high school, that's when we get the fields. So the scraps weren't even really there. There was slim pickings. So we had we had practices at the VFW field. We had practices at Swiss Beach field. Like we had all my cheerleaders were practicing in Lukey Park. So we were using what we could. So the fields usage that were there, we weren't there based on those forms. We had to, obviously, we reserved those times but we were limited. We couldn't use it for $20 a day for a lot of fields. We weren't even there. That's the inaccuracy we're hoping to make, straighten out. And because the other, the games, the game day, we had the playoff game, the invoice for the gym, the invoice for the, when we use the janitorial invoices and such, those are costs you incur, and that we caused. We'll take those, no problem. We're just trying to straighten out those inaccuracies and hopefully iron out for, the past and the future.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, no.
I would hope that the committee would consider only charging for game days.
So we'll consider that, but I know Ms. Bakayaki, are you done? Is that what?
I am.
All right, so I know Ms. Bakayaki had something to say.
Well, all I was going to say is, first of all, yes, thank you. I'm well aware of what you all do for the fields, and we really appreciate it. I was going to ask if you were looking for a vote to authorize the superintendent to enter into a discussion with.
So I don't think we can really have a vote tonight. This is just first being presented to us.
Okay.
But I mean, I had a whole bunch of questions too, but I wanted to hear from the committee before I asked anything, so.
Okay.
Yeah, but tonight I don't think we'll actually have a vote.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so all I guess I want to say is I would certainly be in favor of having a discussion and to discuss what the final fee would be.
Okay. Anyone else? Oh, go ahead.
Just real quick, we all understand that, to take this right off the table, and I believe my partner in crime here just said the same thing, is we understand that we have to pay for janitors, we understand that we have to pay for lights, we understand that we have to pay for stuff all around like that. We're not asking to have that waived. We understand all that. To make it in short is we're asking to help with the fields and in return for cut of our costs. I know after every game last year, for the last 2 years, I've met with Bob on Monday mornings, bright and early. How are the fields? Do I need to do anything? They look good. You want me to go out there and paint them? Do whatever I need to get it done. That way it's perfect and there's no issues from the Tigers.
Bob who?
Bob, the Fields and Grounds.
Gotcha.
So.
All right. No, I appreciate that. So, just some questions I had. So now, after the corrections were made and it was a lot more manageable number, that's still, I guess, too high, right?
Sorry. Yeah, yes.
So what have you paid in the past?
So there is one charge. Unfortunately, there was a time in the Tigers that there was limited transparency in those in charge, for those in charge. So we have very I talked to Ms. Maurice and we had presented the same thing. We don't know exactly if there was ever a contract in place of some sort that stipulated exactly what we would be paid for.
Okay.
So we were paying every year just out of a hunch, $3,000 to use the fields. And we come to find out that was actually a bill we received for a game we had played from Mr. Rodriguez, Ed Rodriguez. He said we had damaged the field we had played when it was raining and we shouldn't have it. It caused damage to a field. This is going back about 4 or 5 years ago, prior to Jared and I, essentially. And we were paying that that bill never got paid from that former organization.
Okay.
So we started paying it back in 2017 and continued to paying it. And
Right.
we thought that was a recurring bill. So come to find out, it's not. It was just that one bill that was supposed to be paid. And other than that, we weren't being charged to use the facilities, if you will. We're just paying custodial fees.
Yeah. All right. And so the lights and the janitors, that's above and beyond, right? That's separate? I'm sorry? I'm getting a nod here.
I apologize. What's that? I didn't hear you. I'm
I
sorry.
was curious about the lights and the janitors. That's you have to pay even more, right?
Well, there's no amount, there's no fixed set rate that we would, unless from having an electronic guy go out there and read the meter before and read the meter after we are on the field. Something short of that. I don't know how you guys would bill us for that. But again, like Jared had said, if it's a cost that gets incurred to the town, to some degree, I mean, we're more than willing to help with that, one way or shape or form.
So getting back to, what to charge or what have you, I mean, I personally think that, the work you guys have been doing, the lights that you've been adding and the work you've been doing, that's like a donation sort of, you know what I mean? That hasn't even been reported. Like nobody, I didn't know that until you mentioned it, you know what I mean? And we usually, have we're gonna vote on, some gifts in a moment from other sources. And so it would be helpful to you guys, when you do this sort of thing, attach a value to it, come to the committee or go through the superintendent, and she'll have it on our thing to accept gifts. I mean, that's kind of how I look at it. And so I like, so we're not going to vote on anything tonight, but I mean, I think we could certainly offset that and consider it in kind, you know what I mean, and work something out. The thing I worry about is, we've got a policy. So now we start making exceptions, but the thing is, we kind of already have, right? So don't we have an agreement with the youth soccer? Now, who arranged that agreement?
I did.
So
With the
that's
people.
that's interesting. So I'm wondering if this deserves a further look at our whole policy to be like, we could do stuff like that, but we need to involve the school committee so that we're all on the same page. I mean, so we have a policy with a whole fee schedule and everything, but separately circumventing that is like, side deals, and so maybe when it comes to that, where it's actually really appropriate to do, that has to come before the committee, and we'll say, probably say yes, but I think it just needs more thought than tonight. But one way or the other, yeah, there's got to be some relief, especially if you guys are doing some sort of all that work. I'd recommend you attach a value to it and put it through the superintendent's office, and we accept it as a gift. I saw you raising your hand. Did you want?
No, it was just, you were talking about the soccer program. I reached out to the youth soccer program. I'm probably going to butcher his last name. It's Robert Gutierrez.
Yeah.
I reached out to him. He said that they pay about $500 a year, and that's for their field usage at Deacon's for the spring and for the fall.
Game days.
For one field or
That's
all
for the
of them?
entire
All of
thing, he
Deacon's.
said.
Okay.
All
Game
of
day.
Deacon's, they said that they have that for their practices, their games, everything.
We can't get access to it.
Ms. Rossi.
And didn't at town meeting that the soccer field is actually not gonna be used at the school anymore? They're actually moving off of Charlotte Furnace Road, I believe, to have their own facility, so they won't even be paying that going forward once the soccer fields are completed off of Charlotte Furnace.
That is true, but there's also still the talk of, I'll say rumored talk of it being sold in 2021. So by the time we'd even be able to turn that into a usable football field, the school would be up for sale.
So I might add that to, in the fall, spring, that all that field over there would facilitate all my flag football needs in regards to game days. Because we have to have, at any given time, 3 fields playing anywhere between 6 to 7 games a day. And that also requires referees, which is our number one cost to us. Our game days in excess anywhere between $1,400 to $2,000 for ref fees. And just to paint pictures, we only charged $75 per participant. Our 5 and 6-year-olds were free, and we actually had sibling discounts to where it was $50 for the first sibling, and then $25 we charged for each subsequent sibling. And as a result, we only had about $2,600 of income from registration fees. So as you know, right off the bat, we were operating at a deficit that required us to fundraise a tremendous amount. So, and incurred in excess of $7,000, both with our debt that we have with the invoice as well as the upcoming invoice. As you can see, right now in our bank account, we don't even have enough to facilitate a quarter of that bill. So we will constantly operate at a deficit, and we don't lie about that. We're very transparent. So hopefully, if that field at Deacon's, if we had access to that in the spring, it would help facilitate. I mean, we'll pay $500 a year for that. That's for sure. But we would also maintain it and do other things, whatever else the committee we could propose to help bring those costs down.
Okay. Anyone else? Ms.
Can I say
Bakayaki.
something? So you talk about the schedule of fees, and it is necessary to have a schedule of fees. And, certainly I'm in favor of, there being a discussion about fees with you, but it is necessary to have that schedule of fees to go by. And we did consider the cost to a profitable organization versus a nonprofit. So I just wanted to
No,
point
I
out
agree.
that-
The fee, the schedule is, you have to have something.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
But if we have, I mean, if we've got like a real relationship with, an entity, we call it the Tigers, call it the youth soccer, call it the Gateman, you know what I mean? So
Right.
there's, you could carve out exceptions, but I think it requires a school committee vote. I mean, so we come up with these fees and we vote on these policies for the field usage, and then, come to find out there are these little side deals, and it's like, that's really violating kind of the fees, I think, you
Well,
know?
I just wanted to point out that to, anyone who's listening, that we do have a fee schedule. I mean, later tonight, we're voting on a budget that, we've had to make cuts in. So it is necessary for us to
Right,
charge
sure.
for the facilities. Again, I'm in favor of a discussion, and, but I just want to point out that that's why there's a fee schedule in place.
Ms. Rossi?
I think to go back to one of Damon's points that, they were being charged for the dates that they requested, whether they were used or not. So I do think that having a policy in place that can say, all right, well, they may have requested this date, but they didn't use that date, and having some sort of, there's apps for everything now that you can clock in, and almost like a time clock. If you're there, be charged for the actual time that they're there. I understand that that would probably be more accurate than saying, okay, well, we requested every, Saturday and Sunday for 6 months, but we only used one of those days each weekend, and one was a backup day for a rain date or something to that extent, and then being charged both days is kind of, I think, more what he was pointing out, that, when they do the field request, because I had to do those same forms when I was the cheerleading coordinator for the Tigers, request gym time, whether or not we got the time we requested, but the charge would be based off of the dates we requested, whether we were granted them or not, I believe.
Well, did you want to answer?
Well, yeah, so it's, to some degree, that's exactly right. It's the policy, which, again, I 100% agree, we have to, 0, 0, 0. So if you're not making money and you cost, we get the concept. I think the policy itself, so I've been in the military for 20 years, and I'm still in. And so policies in the history of what we did, blanket policies were always blanket policies, and it applied to those who would mess up and make mistakes. However, those who were doing the right thing also suffered. And essentially, that's what a blanket policy will do to an organization that isn't as robotic, if you will, in regards to that blanket policy you have in place. And I think numbers are numbers. I just think that when you made the policy, some interoperability or intercommunication between us prior to making the policy and voting on that, and perhaps not just our organization, but all youth organizations in this town. I think if we got together, and because again, we're doing this, Jared and I, we don't make money. In fact, I'm pretty sure we're owed a lot of money from our organization, but none of us here are getting money off of this. We're doing this for one reason only, it's the youth in this community.
Yeah.
That's all, that's the only reason why we are here today fighting for this. So I think if we all together stood by and had bang heads together and made it work for the community, it's a win for everybody in the end. So hopefully, regardless of the policy you have in place, those numbers are what they are, you have to charge. If it was universal and we all were on the same page, then let's do it. But again, the reason why we're doing it is not to make money, because we don't make money. I promise you that. It's to make sure those kids have we have more of the kids that were on the stage here this morning,
Yeah, I agree, and we're going to have to come up with something, I think, an updated policy or something. But now, let me be clear, so this request, was this for next year?
The bill is from the fall of this year, the first bill that Mr.
Yeah, so Ms. Ruiz, when I was reading it, it said that there was an outstanding balance. I guess was that for last year?
Fall.
It's for the fall of this year.
That's for the fall,
Yeah. It's including the field usages, as well as we hosted the playoffs, the Oak Colony Youth Football League playoffs.
Yeah, but that wasn't like $16,000. That was like 3,000 something, I think.
It was $3,640. But the brunt of that, the only thing that I'm sorry, that's the wrong one.
I guess my question is, you don't have any qualm over that, do you? The outstanding balance?
The outstanding balance is based on, again, the former policy of us being on our fields where we weren't on the fields and being charged for those days. Again, from Ms. Reed's defense, she has a policy, she's writing, we request the days, She sees the days we're gonna be there. She sees the guidelines of which she's supposed to follow. She charges based on those guidelines. And that's all she did. So
Yeah.
it's a
but-
policy that is really what we're arguing here. And because, again, you can't pinpoint what days we were there, because I can promise you, we cancel a lot of practices. We practice all around the town because we couldn't get on those fields because of the EEE issue and such.
Can I just ask a question about that?
Sure, sure.
So for the days that you weren't there, how, and I know you said that, how are we supposed to, so it's a reserved time that we wouldn't be able to, say, charge somebody else maybe a higher fee or whatever was gonna end up happening. So if you request 3 fields, for 10 Sundays, how are we gonna know if you're not gonna be there? Is there a time frame we can do or something so we could try maybe to recoup money
So
somewhere else?
And I only say this because I've been in the Tigers organization for a while, and nobody else uses those fields. And the time we use them, nobody does, because we've been there for 52 years. So because of that, the marketable field I could see would be like the track, for instance. Mr. Rodriguez would tell us they have a track meet, they host a track meet that takes priority, and we say, okay, just let us know, we'll schedule around it. Along with Spillane, if there's a soccer game and such, there's times where we actually had the field reserved and permitted, but there was a soccer game from the high school, it was the alumni game. We compromised and moved everything and changed everything around to accommodate that game for them, even though we were permitted for that field. So there's times we actually go, we take away and we give, we take away, it's give and take, if you will. So we don't, but I can tell you right now, those fields don't get used by anybody else in those hours other than the Tigers. And if they were, then then again, we can probably schedule around it and go down to one field, or make it, accommodate if that's the case. And I can say that just as a simple discussion and coordinating and saying, we want this field this day, is that gonna hurt you? We can say, no, I can tell my coaches, go to this other field for the day, it's rather than just have it cut off from everybody. So we're flexible like that.
All right. Did you have something?
So basically, the only fields that like he said, the only fields that we would use that are like that would be the Spillane, the Palmer, and the other soccer field. I'm with Mr. Rodriguez. I talk to him almost every day during football season and during flag football season. So I know the schedule of who's going to be in there, who's not going to be in there, and we work our schedules out perfectly together. But like you said, for regular football season, to use Spillane, we only use it for 4 Sundays. And we schedule that almost out in April, and it's always on a Sunday because it's not going to interact with a high school game Friday night if they're canceled, or to go into Saturday, or Saturday soccer games. So.
Okay. Any further discussion? So we'll definitely take it under advisement. We'll have to come up with something. We'll work together. I mean, I thank you guys for coming. I really do. This is how it should work. We really do have a relationship here. It's like you said. You're kind of paying for it already. But so is everybody else. But we need to come up with something amicable here and move forward. Did you have anything else? Okay. Well,
I
thank
just
you.
want to add real quick, I appreciate you having us Tigers today, and I appreciate you accommodating the short notice. I know we did it right on the 7-day limit, and hopefully we could revisit, and Jared and I, we hope that we can, including our board that's back here, some of our board members are here supporting us today, that we can have some more interoperability between the organizations, because again, you're here for the kids and so are we, and with that, what's stronger than uniting forces, so. Thanks again.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, acceptance of gifts.
Yes. I would recommend the following, acceptance of the following gifts: $299.75 to the Deacon School from the Wareham Elks Lodge, $125 to WPS for the weekend backpack program from True Associates Incorporated, 25 Kiwi STEM kits to the Wareham students from Scott Schussler at East Wareham, hats and gloves to the middle school from Lois Ladd, $150 to the high school middle school from Noah Young, $500 to the Wareham Middle School from ExxonMobil Educational Alliance Program.
Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500. Thank you very much. Favorite part of the agenda. On to the FY21 budget vote.
If you don't mind, we have a
Sure,
PowerPoint.
absolutely.
All right, so when we began this budget vote, we were approximately 11.5% above this year's budget. We
Just,
needed-
I know one of those microphones, I guess.
You can't hear
I
me?
can't really hear you so good.
Can, oh,
Okay,
you can
thank
hear
you.
me? Okay. And so we came up, we have a draft budget proposal of $31,551,930. That still was about 7.4% above our this year's budget. We knew that if we would apply approximately $800,000 with grants and revenue that we have in the district, that we would bring the budget down to what we would propose, the request being of $30,751,930.
These are the broken down by major accounts, so you can see where each of the FY21 funds will be coming from major accounts. These were also presented last week, so it's not new information for those of you that were there at the meeting. Does anybody have any questions? Here are the percentages of each of those subsequent major accounts.
So when you look at the budget, we're at 45.9% with teachers and specialists. We have 10.4 with instructional other and 9.2 with other teaching. And those are the three highest areas. The next one is at 9.0, and that's at student services. So it, as you can see, where the majority of our money is going where it needs to go.
The proposed draft budget meets all contractual obligations, assumes grants remain status quo, which is a little dicey, but nonetheless, we're going to make that assumption for the moment. And there's a modest increase for fixed cost, like utilities and things like that.
What this budget doesn't have, we've had to reduce supplies and materials. When we began the process, the principals and director had requested additional staff. This new staff equal to about $730,000 in new staffing cost. Unfortunately, this did not make it into the budget. To make this budget number work, at the current time, we would be looking at a reduction with current staff. As we move forward, if this budget number is adopted, certainly our charge is to see what is in the budget that we could reduce to save staff. That's our number one priority. So our work is not done after, if the number's adopted tonight. We'll continue to work and whittle this down because we do not want to reduce anyone. So when you look at the request, the net would be $28,777,830, the non-net, and then you have the total budget request. So if the committee has questions, we will try to answer your questions.
Open it up to the committee. Ms. Rossi's going to have a question soon, but anyone else? Ms. Morgan?
Sure, I have a couple of questions. Just looking at the line items for the proposed budget. Just curious where it says Deacon's sped psychologist salaries. How many does Deacon's have? Because it's like 200,000.
Deacon's has two. They have a preschool person that works as the,
Both teen chair
Teen
and
ch-
psychologist.
and then Deacon's has another psychologist that services the students at Deacon's.
Okay. And then, so the Deacon's sped teacher substitutes and the substitute paraprofessionals, there's no money. So does that mean that there's going to be no substitute?
No, what we did is we put it in a different account. So we have about 375,000 worth of money for subs in this budget.
So a question I have then is, why isn't those line items just eliminated? Why do they stay there?
They're there. We would be more than happy to delete.
Another question is Deacon's pencils and paper. I noticed that every other school has money on that account, but there's none at Deacon's for the Deacon's pencils and paper. So you guys just don't use it, right?
Well, I think we show
There is on one line, though.
$10,500.
There is where,
Yeah, it's $10,500.
Page 2,
page
It's down
2.
from 5,000. It's
maybe there are
down.
2 lines that are similar. The descriptions are similar, but page 2, about halfway down.
Halfway down. I see halfway down, Deacon's pencils, paper, nothing. Textbooks, you said it's about 10,000?
Yep.
We have 10,500.
Oh, okay, I see. I mixed the lines up. The computer supplies, that's what I was looking at.
Yes. Yeah, those are.
Yeah, sorry about that.
I bet Becky's
Okay.
happy.
Ms. Rossi?
So I went through and tried to notice anything where the difference between the previous year and the projected budget increased by 10,000 or more. I know a lot of that is salaries. I'm wondering, is that for additional positions or is that for increases in contractual raises?
Well, I'm happy that you asked that question because that's something that I really want to make sure everybody understands. There are some lines that are reduced. That does not mean we're reducing staff in those lines. What it could mean is we have just merely moved that salary into the proper account because there were some people being charged to the wrong account. There's no new staff in this budget. There are some shifts in the salary line, and that's to make sure that people are charged to the right accounts.
Okay, my next question is on the first page, about 3/4 of the way down. You have district info, I think it was supposed to say, info management technology, other expenses. It was previously budgeted for 22,000 and is proposed for 50,700. And then underneath it, it says district-wide info management technology contracted services for projected 20. So that's an additional 50,000 from the current budget. Is that something that was moved also from another part of the budget? Or is that something that's an expense that we just hadn't anticipated in this current year?
No, what's happened through the years has been, if there's money that would come available through the town vote, it can be spent on certain types of items, technology, capital expenses, some repairs, etc. And when we know that that money may come available, what we have to do is to go through the budget and pull those amounts out. Because we can't use it for certain, like I could not go buy pencils, papers, things like that,
Hire somebody for salaries.
or salaries with
Not
that
allowed.
line. So what has likely happened with these lines, we knew that we were receiving some cash through the town vote, so we had to pull that amount out to keep it over here, so when the town voted to approve that money, that's where the purchase came from. Now, it's very likely that that could happen in the upcoming spring and fall, and what we would do then is pull some of this money out, put it aside, but this money here could be put back to fund staffing. We're still in those kind of conversations.
Okay, so another question is that previously on the second page, I know you had mentioned stuff about utilities before and being increases, but an increase of $8,000 and $6,000 for, say, Deacon's heating and utilities, $8,000 additional for heating and $6,000 additional for utilities. What would institute the increase being that drastic?
Well, what we try to do is we look at projections and where we're going, and not knowing what kind of a heating season we're going to have, we try to make sure that we're covered. And so that money is just there for insurance.
Okay, thank you. Hold on, there was another one that I did. I know that you answered the salaries related questions, but there was another one that I just have to find. There's so many pages.
While you're doing that, do
Mhm.
you mind if I
Nope,
just?
go
all
right
right.
ahead.
And so Ms. Rossi brings up the point that there's so many pages, and so I just want to be clear to the public. So we're looking at the full line item budget. This thing goes, I don't know how many, like 12, 16 pages or something. This will be on the website, right?
Yes.
So after assuming we vote on it as is, that will be an official vote. That vote will go to the town administrator. And what's the deadline for that? I forget.
Actually, we will not have another meeting before the vote, the number needs to go to.
Right, but do you recall what the deadline is, though?
I believe it's like January 5th.
Yes, and that's hard-coded in the town charter, like, we have to do that by then. So I'm always kind of, I don't know what to say to people when I bump into them or talk to them on social media, and they say that, the school committee hides their budget, they don't, there's no transparency, there's no, because all they see at town meeting is the three numbers we're gonna vote, which are, three pretty large numbers. But behind those numbers is like 12-plus pages, and this is accessible, or will be accessible on the website after we vote. Sometime tomorrow will be up there.
So my next one is, I'm just curious if this was something that was not fully in, again, it may be just, again, something apparently moved from one thing to another, but on, page 6, about halfway down, it says middle sped academic directors and department heads. Last year was budgeted for $544, and this year $72,000. Can you explain what that,
How
was
come
it
there are
just
two lines that are the
Yeah,
same?
there's two lines together.
Where do you see the other line? Oh, that one underneath it, that was 66. But see, part of the writing is cut off. I see SU after one, so not the full line, and NO after the other. So I don't know if those, to me, are two separate things.
These
but,
are,
or was it those two were supposed to be one thing, had been previously lined as two separate and are going forward as one different?
correct.
Okay. And, what was that, something else? And again, one other very large jump, in utilities, about $20,000 jump. You're projecting possibly $20,000 more in utilities at the high school?
Yeah. The
Can you explain why?
The high school's utility usage is quite high. We're doing things to try to lower it, but there's something going on all the time in that building.
Morning, noon, and night.
I think that's all I have for now, thank you. Oh, actually, I'm so sorry. For East Utilities, we paid $322 last year, and it's budgeted for $3,000 for a school we don't use.
Yes, we have to pay for utilities.
So how does it jump from 322 to 3,000 for a building not in use?
Well, 300 is not sufficient.
It wasn't enough.
We still have to heat, we have to have the electric, we have building checks. We're not allowed to turn everything down because of the sprinkler.
So,
Are we not able to sell these buildings that we no longer use, like West Wareham and East Wareham? We can't sell those parcels of land to offset the budget in any way?
Well, West Wareham, we gave back to the town. East has something in the covenant that it can only be used for education. So we've tried to get Head Start in, but there's a lot of remediation that would have to happen prior to anyone occupying the east. And they have to stay in the education realm.
can I piggyback on
Yep.
you? So the East example, for example, obviously it costs, more than $300 to, maintain even an empty building. But are you saying that basically last year, that was essentially what we spent to maintain that building, was about $3,000 last year?
No, I don't have it right in front of me, but I can get it because I have a spreadsheet.
No, so, I shouldn't even say last year, you're comparing it with the current year, right, so FY '20. So, roughly 3,000?
Yeah, I think,
Yeah,
we went
yeah.
up, yeah.
And it is what it is, but my point being that, that you wouldn't see, so obviously, we're paying for that, or, paid or paying for it, about $3,000. But it was budgeted zero, correct?
No, 300.
No, for the current year. For FY '20?
It said the budget for FY '20 said 322.
Oh, right, so 322. It just gets to the point of the transfers. So obviously, we're paying money to East, but it had to have come from somewhere else. And so that's the thing where we would have an answer to April's question if we had done transfers. That's all. This is the point I was going to make. Go ahead, Ms. Rossi.
And the next one is on page 10, towards the bottom. It says District Other Instructional Services Other Expenditure, which is kind of vague, and it was previously budgeted for $673 and is projected for $72,000. What does that entail?
That would be that is the extracurricular for the district. So what has happened is when, the different schools have clubs, activities, et cetera, there's stipends attached. And this is where the stipend amount shows.
So they were previously for this year $673, and next year they're expected to be $72,000?
Well, unfortunately, it wasn't budgeted correctly last year.
The next one I have a question of is the System Network Telecom contracted. That went up about $5,000.
I'm not sure what page. you're
That
on.
would be page 11, about halfway down, system network / telecom contracted. And if that's something that's contracted, is that something that can be, like bid out, like a lot of other things to negotiate, or was that the best negotiated for that service?
We have not bid out anything. Once again, that could be one of those items that could be pulled depending on what comes our way, if anything.
It just seems kind of, I mean, I understand the having to move items from one thing to another, but it just seems like kind of a crapshoot.
It's not ever that.
I think it's just
Can I-
confusing.
Because if we
Can
don't
I-
get the money, we have to pay for it.
Can
Well, Ms.
Oh, sorry,
Ms.
sorry.
Morgan's been really patient. Go ahead, Ms. Morgan.
I, go ahead.
So just going back to East for a second, so there's no way we can't just fully shut it down? Like I know summer cottages, you take the you take the water out and you turn the electricity off and you just shut it completely down.
We have explored that, but we've not been successful in dealing with the fire because the suppression.
Okay,
And is the town not interested in us giving it back to them?
we can't because of that.
No, I do not think so, because they would have no use because of the way it is
Has to be used.
titled.
Right, yeah.
Would that, sorry.
I'm sorry,
Go ahead, Ms. Morgan, go ahead.
I just have a couple more. So I also noticed that it appears that Ms. Fay is going to be working for free this year, along with the supervisor,
Thank you.
because there's nothing there.
No, it's
Well,
another line.
We would love
So
that.
I just don't, see, I think that's what makes it confusing. What makes it confusing is why wouldn't we just keep that line? Where's the other line? I don't, it's just very
What page are you
confusing.
on?
It's
I'm on
200
page 9.
Yeah, it's 226,000.
Okay, so what line is it in now?
Well, it's in the, I don't know.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 9.
All right, that helps because there are quite a lot of lines, but I know exactly what she's talking about.
Page 9.
It's, if you will look, the account number where she shows up is 001, 05, 07, 02, 2110, 01, 3 zeros and a 1 and 4 zeros. It's on page, 3 pages from the back.
So what's the name of the line item?
SPED, Student Service SPED Academic Directors.
Okay.
And that's the line.
What?
That's what she does, and that's where it belongs.
Okay, so why do we have the other line? I'm confused.
That's
They've been
historic.
made. Those are already created.
We did not make any up.
None of them.
Okay. All right, so one of the other questions I had was about middle school, middle sped counselor salaries. So last year they were 138,000, now there's nothing.
Right, that's because we do not have sped counselors, we have counselors. It was transferred into a middle school counselor line. I believe the amount's approximately 160 something.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay. All right. I guess that's about it for now.
Anyone else? Joyce?
Yes. So I'd just like to acknowledge the months of work that have gone into this budget, the months of meetings that the Budget Subcommittee has had. And honestly, the word crapshoot is offensive to me. Hours and months and hours of work have gone into this. It's not a crapshoot.
What I
okay?
meant by
These-
crapshoot was the vote on the town for the money and where the line
That's not
items
what you
get
meant.
moved
This
from.
wasn't a
That's
vote on the
exactly what
town.
I
This is
meant.
the work that they have done for months, that they've been working on, that we've been working on, to get to this point. This document we've had for days. I don't have any questions tonight because I've asked all my questions already. I've asked them ahead of time. So it's really upsetting to me, and I can't even imagine how upsetting it is to them to say that. I understand all your questions you've asked. I had the same exact questions, but I asked them already, and and got the same answers. So I just wanted to say that you really, obviously, it's hard to understand, I guess, if you're not on the budget subcommittee, which I have the privilege of being, how much work has gone into this budget. And to have to make cuts, it's really painful, and it's just a lot of work. And so I just wanted to acknowledge the work that's
Thank
gone
you.
into that.
And I understand
I'm not done. Hopefully in the future, you'll have a better understanding of that. But until you do, just be careful what you say.
well, that's why I was
Please.
asking questions, to have a better understanding, and by assuming you knew what I meant when I said it, and telling me that what I said I meant was not what I meant, is a little childish.
The word is offensive.
I apologize that you're offended, but when moving line items from one thing to another and having to shift, which is beyond our control, I understand we're at the mercy of the town and of what we're allowed to get. I understand that part. So that's what I meant by a crapshoot. It's from having to slide things from one line to another, which is why I again asked several questions regarding things that were over $10,000 or more, because I'm trying to have a better understanding of why they were budgeted one way for the year from before I was on the committee to where they're being projected while I am on the committee. So if you find my questioning offensive, I apologize, but I'm here to serve the town and not anyone else.
As is everyone in this room.
Can I just add something?
What did I miss?
So- You really missed.
God.
So can I just add something?
Sure.
You know, you've had the privilege, you're right, of
I
sitting
have.
on, and, you know, maybe it'd be nice if everyone got that privilege, because it seems like every year I'm passed over.
I
So,
haven't been on it either.
I-
By
right, I
chair,
know, I know,
appointment.
and I think that
So-
everyone should have a chance to be on it, to fully understand it.
But to be fair, I did point out that I had the exact same questions. What I said, I'm not going to repeat it, but,
You can watch it.
yeah, so, and it's just, it's
Time out, I'm sorry, what
the
did you say?
basis of what, no, it was me.
No,
the
no,
base-
Ms. Spear just said something about the chair. What's up?
Well, Mary said it would be nice if other people could be on the committee. I said,
Which
it's not-
committee?
It's not up
It's
to
not
Which
the chair.
committee?
chosen by the chair.
The
that-
Budget
true,
advisory?
True.
It's totally up to the superintendent. In fact, I recommended you. But it's up to her. And that was fine.
So sorry.
Okay.
Oh,
Misspoke.
so anyway, we'll go
Maybe we
forward.
should just
It's
move on.
Yeah, thank you.
But I am more than happy to answer anybody's questions. If you would like to
Always happy.
call, send me an email, happy to answer them. So I would ask the committee to please make 2 votes. 2 or 3 votes?
Three,
Three.
we usually
I
do
would-
3.
Yes, I would recommend that you please vote on the net at $28,777,830. The second vote would be the non-net at $1,974,100, and then the third vote would be the total budget of $30,751,930.
So, yeah, we'll break that down, but I had to step out. I do have a question
Oh,
about the
okay.
$800,000,
Oh,
from the
oh,
district,
okay.
the district contribution.
Yes,
So that's our contribution to help bring the request down, percentage-wise. What's behind that number, the 800,000? Where's that coming from?
yes. We will put approximately 600,000 to 700,000 from circuit breaker. We have global education that will come into play there. We have some preschool money. So we will be looking at putting some revenue toward bringing it down.
So the global education's from the revolver?
Global education, yes, is from our students, our global ed students. We have approximately 69,000 in there now.
And so I asked this because this isn't, we're not forecasting this. We have this money in hand,
That's
right?
correct.
Yeah, we'd have to. But I don't, more to the point too, like, we've never done this before, right? We've always kind of sort of husbanded that money in case we needed it, you know, further on for the circuit breaker, especially for special education, correct?
That's true, but we do not intend to use the total amount.
No,
We're
I
still going to
understand.
have some back.
It's just like the extra effort that we've done in this budget to help get it down. Like we in the past, we've always kind of like held on to those dollars in-house and because we might need them. That's the whole point, I think, of the circuit breaker and such.
That's true, but also saving staff is very important to us.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that one.
Saving staffs, jobs.
Yes, yeah, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. So that's, I mean, normally this request would be $800,000 more, but we're digging deep here. So with that, I'm gonna break it down. We're gonna have a vote for net, non-net, and total, and just for anyone new on the committee or anyone at home, the net figure is what we call is pretty much the bulk of it. That's basically, you know, that's our education budget. The non-net is it 100% transportation? Yeah. So transportation is really 1.974 million. But just so people understand what that non-net number is. So with that, I'll entertain a motion to accept the net number of $28,777,830.
So moved.
Second it.
All right. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500. Non-net, $1,974,100. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second it.
All those, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500. Total, so that's the combined number, $30,751,930. Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second it.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500. Wasn't hearing everybody. 500? Yes, okay. That's voted. But in hindsight, I do have one more question. So, yeah, I'm looking at the document you sent us later, the one that I asked about, you know, the differences and such. And I'm looking at the, where are we? Business and finance salary, it's been reduced $78,000. And are we still covered for, when we hire a business manager?
Yes.
That's accounted for?
Mhm.
All right, thank you. That's all I had. Ms. Rossi?
I just have one more thing. If at all possible, would the east be something that, whereas it's contracted that it has to be used for educational purposes, is there a way to go through like the zoning board of appeals to have that modified to be able to offset the building? Or is that something that is not able to be done?
I'm not really sure because that was in the, whatever they.
The deed.
The deed.
Okay.
When they deeded it to us. We've, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so with nothing else, I'll move on. Next item on the agenda is vote to declare furniture, equipment, materials obsolete.
All right. You received what we would like to have voted obsolete. There's library books, 450 from the high school, at the middle school, milk chest serving line, library, computer cart, volleyball poles, 5 computer carts, a file cabinet, 3 smart boards that are broken, but parts have been salvaged. Also at the middle school, large gym mats, 5 pieces of exercise equipment in poor condition. From the co-op, 3 televisions, rolling cart in poor condition, central office, some copiers, all in very poor condition, and a Sharp microwave that is broken. So I would ask the committee to please deem these obsolete.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Second it.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500. Report of the Director of Student Services. And just so I understand, so like, I always refer to Ms. Fay as the Special Education Director, but like, I guess her formal title is Director of Student Services, so she is the Special Education Director, correct? For Wareham? I'm seeing a nod. So she is the Director of Special Education for Wareham, so, but I guess she does a lot more than that.
She does.
Am I on here? This today. Here, got it. I forgot my glasses, so I'm sorry. I just have to
Oh, that's the
squint.
worst.
Give me 1 second.
Oh, no, that might make it easier. Yeah.
Am I on
exactly.
it?
The third one down.
Sorry. That's what happens when you're blind. Okay. Good evening, everybody. I don't have much of a voice because I had something, a procedure yesterday and a thing down my throat, so now I'm like, sound funny. So I just want to give you like a quick recap of what's been going on. This just quickly gives you the special education trends. Oh, I kind of liked it better with the laid off. Since 2014, you can see that we're kind of moving up. We're still significantly above the state average as well, which kind of hovers between 16 and 18% special ed. I don't know why this is like funky. There we go.
Can I just interrupt you for a sec? Do we have this in our packet?
No.
No? Okay. I'm sorry, go ahead. We just don't have this, we didn't see this before.
In case anybody forgot, we have our therapeutic learning center programs in all of our buildings, which is small group instruction for our social emotional needs. In our district, also learning centers, which is students with significant disabilities who require individualized support, supervision, staff assistance, and then our ASD or autism spectrum programs. So this year, just a kind of a little professional development update for us. 6 of our teachers have started and are into their training for the Wilson Reading Program. So this gives us 6 additional staff who will be, they're going through their training course. They've all received their training manuals and their Wilson kits. So they will be done with this training at the close of the school year, and they work on individual students with training through mentors through the Wilson program. And so we will have 6 more Wilson trained teachers at the end of the school year, which is exciting. Our paraprofessionals have received 2 trainings this year, one on discrete trial training, which is part of the Applied Behavior Analysis, or ABA, and also natural environment teaching, data collection, and the effects of trauma and diagnosis on behaviors in the classroom. I just want to give you a quick update on our McKinney-Bento and our Foster students in the district. So this is as of 12/16. And this, again, is something that kind of changes constantly. We're currently serving, as of the 16th, 15 McKinney-Bento students, so those are our homeless students in the district. We also have 20 foster students and 47 students currently in out-of-district placements. We've got the Parent Advisory Council, or CPAC, the Special Ed Advisory Council. So a couple things we have upcoming in 2020 are our Parents' Rights Seminar, which we're required to give every year to our parents. Also another meet and greet this year with student services. And we're going to try again our Mental Health Awareness Night. All of these dates will be posted on our website and on our website calendar, as well as the CPAC page. And Heather Hogan is the president of our CPAC, and I have included her email here for anybody who's interested in getting in touch with her. And you can also get in touch with her if you'd like to know when they hold their own meetings. And we welcome anybody to attend. You do not have to have a student who has an IEP or 504 to attend a CPAC meeting. Any interested member of the community can attend, whether or not you have a child of school age, whether or not you have a child with a disability. Anybody can attend these meetings. And all of those dates are going to be scheduled hopefully in January, so they'll all be up on the website hopefully by the end of January for everybody. And that's it. Any questions?
Ms. Spear?
How well attended are the CPAC meetings?
It depends. We seem to have a bigger crowd when we have a question and answer, where parents can kind of come and have like that venue to ask us questions. We also get a lot of appointments scheduled, I think, during that time. A lot of people will schedule appointments, so we sometimes get 20, 30 parents will come to those. I can't speak for the meetings, because those are just kind of their own little group meetings. I meet with CPAC officers at least once per quarter. And then the Mental Health Awareness Night wasn't a big hit last year, but we're going to try some different things. I know April had some great ideas for us of places we could advertise, so I'm going to try to see if we can get some more folks to participate in that this year. The Parents' Rights Seminars, we don't really get a lot of people, I would say 5 to 10, but we are going to continue to push forward and advertise.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone else?
She can go, Joyce can go.
Oh, Joy, Ms. Bakayaki?
I just want to say thank you for coming. I know I did ask Mike, I thought that you presenting at school committee meetings was a routine thing, so I said, oh, we haven't seen her in a while.
It's okay. Happy to do it anytime.
So one question that I do have is that I read somewhere recently that they were looking for foster parents in Wareham because they like to keep children in their community. So is that what you see, that the foster children that you mentioned the number, are most of them from our own community?
No.
Okay.
No, in fact, we sit through an awful lot of best interest determination meetings, which is it's a meeting process that we have to go through with the Department of Children and Families when they place a student in a foster or in a STAR program or in any kind of like a shelter program here in Wareham. We just happen to have more foster care and short-term assessment and rapid rehabilitation, or STAR programs, and shelter programs in our community than any other community in the Commonwealth.
Mhm.
So we just happen to always have more room. So that's
So
why
that
we.
statement isn't true when they, okay.
No.
No.
All right. I had one other, so what is different this year than last year? Are there any numbers that are really different, or are there any changes?
No, I think we're pretty steady. I think we've had we've seen a little bit of a drop in our out of district.
Mhm.
But, that's always, again, it's like a fluid thing.
Right.
Right now, knock on wood, it's okay now, but,
Mhm.
you just never know. You just
Right.
never know who's moving in, what's happening, but that's, I think the most significant thing right now is we're a little bit lower than since
Mhm.
I've been here.
Mhm. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I guess, I'd like to just hear like more of like what you do besides the special education. Like what else are you responsible for?
Nursing, guidance, all the ancillary services, so
Yeah.
speech and language, occupational therapy, physical therapy, our board-certified behavior analysts, our registered behavior techs, our vision services, hearing services, orientation and mobility services, making sure we vet all of our programs that our students go to outside of the district, all of that stuff.
Yeah, I've been to a few of your meetings, and they're always informative. I like going to them. I wish I could make it to more. I like the parents I meet there. They're great people, and I think you got one of the. I know a lot of people would disagree, but I think you got one of the, if not the, most difficult job in the district. But I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I totally agree with you.
Okay, good. I'm in good company then. You're in good company. Yeah, sure, good.
There has been actually a change in the referral rate
Mhm.
of special education at Deacon's. I know there's been
Going
a
down.
drop. It's been going down. We've been collecting the data and sort of watching trends over a period of time with the work that we've been doing there. And there's upward to 33% lower referral rate from kindergarten, in kindergarten to grade 1, for example. So once we get a hold of them in kindergarten and we can hopefully address some of the issues that were perplexing us in the past, we've been able to effectively help students. And the goal will be to track that over a period of time, because each and every referral is approximately $1,000 or $1,200
Mhm.
just for the testing, and that's a low price. So if you start to look at that financially in the system overall, and you collect that over a period of time, the savings could be significant. It takes time, though. You have to, track it and watch it. So I think that's been a difference.
Okay, thank you.
Anything further? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, we are on to the report of the superintendent.
You, in your newsletter, have the list of items for approval of bill and payroll warrants. I would ask the committee to please vote those numbers.
Do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right.
I just have
Discussion?
one question.
Sure.
So when I put in for a reimbursement, I'm required to put the date, the time, amount of time, and then also what it was for. Is that the case here?
For reimbursement for what?
For work that I might do above and beyond?
There is
Or-
documentation that is requested.
A lot of documentation.
Yeah,
Okay, because one of the documentations I saw was just a laundry list. Didn't have the exact date, didn't have the exact time, amount of time.
yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if they have to do the exact time or not, but it's not changed since you've been here, I'm sure.
The town's really strict too. They send it back constantly if they don't have the right information.
Okay, I
They
was
won't
just
reimburse
surprised
it.
to see that documentation. It, to me, was not very specific.
So we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Monthly budget report. You were sent a monthly report. There are a few items, if they have an asterisk by them, we're looking at why it either needs to be transferred, a journal entry, moved to the proper account, or money needs to be moved in. I would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Any questions regarding the monthly budget report?
Correct, yeah.
No?
I have none.
Waiting for it to do.
I'd just like to get a general sense of how do you feel about where we stand on the budget right now? Do you have any concerns?
I do.
Okay.
I have a few concerns.
Okay.
I'm concerned about school committee contractual services, that is the legal fees between special education and regular ed. We're watching that line very closely. Also on substitutes, unfortunately, there is not enough money budgeted in some lines, so we're having to really look at the substitute lines and make some movements. We have frozen the budget to make sure that where we are at, and we're tracking everything pretty closely at this point.
Describe what that means to freeze the budget.
Freeze the budget. That means that unless it's absolutely essential, we do not make purchases.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Moving on.
And then the revolving report. So you have the list of the revolving accounts. There are a couple that are in deficit. However, we're waiting for the deposits to be made and to reflect. It will then become positive once they're made. So if you have any questions about any of the revolving accounts.
Any questions on the revolvers? Ms.
I have a
Bacchiocchi?
question. What are the other sources of revenue besides, well, for transportation? Other than the fees that the families pay for transportation, what are the other sources of revenue?
Field trips, it would be, like when we did when we had the Cranberry
Mhm.
Festival, we would do the buses for them. Those would be the fees.
Okay. And then on the gift accounts, you said that there would be deposits. So where would those deposits be coming from for all three, for 3 of the schools there.
Well, if there were donations, if people gave money, they would go into this account. It's a gift.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right, I had a couple. Daycare.
Yep, that was
Um,
my exact question.
So, I didn't even see you had a
That's
question.
okay.
All right.
You can
Just that it started out negative. How did that happen?
It started out negative because the money had not been deposited when when we started the school year, the FY, July.
Oh, we had it, it just
Yeah.
wasn't deposited. Oh, okay.
Correct.
All right. Also, so global education, looks like we made some money there.
We did. That's the exchange students.
Yeah.
So whenever we receive exchange students, it goes into this account. It's used for various purposes.
Yeah, no, that was good.
And we have another exchange student coming yesterday. Yeah,
Oh, from where?
Austria.
Oh, nice, okay. How long will he or she be here?
It's a semester.
Okay. All right, did you have any other questions, Ms. Rossi?
Yeah, just, what does PM2 stand for?
That's the PASS program.
Okay, thank you. I was just unsure what that stood for. Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, moving on.
Okay. I have my rebuttal to my evaluation. I would say that I also want to make it known that I appreciate some of the committee's evaluation. I think reflection is always a wonderful thing, and so I do want to make that known. So when I began my service in the Wareham system in 2013, I came in and I was asked to transform the system. DESE had comprehensively evaluated the district and published a report in February 2012. The report indicated barriers to implement otherwise well-intended initiatives have diminished in their effectiveness. These barriers included problems with funding, capacity, planning, and the ability of leadership and the local Teachers Association to resolve issues. This was 2013, page 9. Differential curriculum and programs to support higher achieving students are not provided, and a consistent structure for curriculum development and revision has not been implemented. 2013, page 12. There's no formal enrichment program at the elementary and middle levels. Other than advanced placement courses, there are no option for accelerated students at the high school. 2013, page 13. In most observed classes, instruction in the Wareham Public Schools was not rigorous, engaging, or student-centered. 2013, page 14. The absence of infrastructure to facilitate timely data analysis has reduced the usefulness and effectiveness of the district's assessment program. 2013, page 16. While Wareham has engaged specialists to train to work with teachers to do interpretation and use data to improve instruction, there's too little time for teachers to meet with them, especially in the elementary level. 2013, page 18. Teacher supervision and evaluation practices were mostly ineffective. The Wareham Public Schools have made improvement to special education programming, and the continuum of special education services is a priority during the period from 2009 to 2011. Although significant progress has been made in meeting these objectives, further development and refinement of support programs and services are needed. 2013, page 26. The law 603 CMR 35 indicates the purpose of evaluation is A, to promote student learning, growth, achievement, and enhance opportunities for professional growth, and B, to provide a record of facts and assessments for decisions. 3507 indicates that evidence will be included multiple measures of student learning, growth, and achievement to include classroom data, learning goals, statewide growth measurements, and common assessments. Judgments can be made based on evidence. The 2008-2009 evaluation timetable for the superintendent's evaluation begins August 1st and ends July 31st. Goals are to be evaluated in that time frame, not prior to or following. My most recent evaluation failed to honor the timelines. The WPS evaluation system approved overall by the school committee requires those being evaluated to address any questions or concerns, speak with the evaluator, and then sign and place in the personnel file. This allows for both parties to be clear on what's being written and dignifies the whole system. The system ratings are determined by data. It's not possible for an evaluator to say support for those who have left the district was reported as limited or at times hostile, and all the initiatives the superintendent has supported in the district have not encouraged students to stay. And many of these initiatives are not accessible to the average struggling student. There's no evidence. There's been no evidence that promotes fearful pleas from WPS personnel. These quotes are referring to a personnel issue that occurred and was independently investigated and found, and I quote, Dr. Shaver-Hood has high expectations of her staff and appears to have a no-nonsense managerial style. Dr. Shaver-Hood is generally credited with maintaining a professional demeanor at all times, never raising her voice and approaching difficult issues carefully. Her managerial style may not suit everyone, particularly those who cannot meet expectations. For purposes of this report, suffice to say, I found the allegations of unlawful conduct and policy violation against Dr. Shaver-Hood to be unsubstantiated. John F. Nolan, Esquire, 8/30/19. To make claims or judgments that lead to ratings according to the evaluation system, there must be solid evidence. No evidence was provided in the claims made in my evaluation. If members of the committee were approached by employees, all of this evidence, names, dates, descriptions of situations or events should have been included or at least shared with me as evidence. It's my belief that there's always multiple sides to any situation. Several of the committee members made statements in my evaluation that failed to provide me with any information which either allowed me to acknowledge or to deny allegations made by employees. Never once has a member asked about a situation or provided me with the professional respect to share my side. I come back to what was reported by John F. Nolan, Esquire, unsubstantiated allegations. The Budget Subcommittee met multiple times during the course of last fiscal year. They, along with the school committee, were provided information supplied by the business manager. The members were asked several times directly about making budget transfers and provided the business manager with the permission not to make budget transfers. At no time during the course of the year was the request of transfers made. The school committee was provided with reams of vetted and analyzed evidence that supported each standard. The 2018 Comprehensive District Review. DESE and school leaders and town officials have a collaborative working relationship and focus their efforts in improving student performance opportunities and outcomes. District and school leaders and staff use district strategic plan, annual plans, and the school improvement plan to drive development, implementation, and modification of educational programs and practices. The goal of the district's planning documents is to transform the district. The district administrators allocate resources on goals, priorities of the school improvement plans, as well as student needs as they arise, and the district acts upon these goals and priorities. The district has established a robust and inclusive curriculum review and revision process that is informed by district needs and includes structures to support its implementation. The district provides all students access to a range of rigorous academic offerings, learning experiences, and supports that are aligned with student ambitions and interests, preparing them for college, careers, and civic engagement. The district has implemented a balanced system of assessments across all schools and grades to measure student progress and support struggling students. The results are collected, analyzed, and shared in an organized way with all. The district education evaluator system prioritizes opportunities for teachers and administrators to receive high-quality feedback that helps them to improve their practice. The district has allocated staff and program resources to support student needs. The district has a long capital plan and has received approval for the construction of the new elementary school. The district's systems and approaches to supporting student well-being ensures that student receives the support they need to be successfully academically, behaviorally, socially, and emotionally. 2019, page 44. The district and school leaders have a collaborative working relationship focused on improving outcomes for students and advocating for meeting the needs of students. The district is prepared to improve student performance, opportunities, and outcomes, 2019, page 21. All stakeholders use the district's strategic plan and school improvement plans to drive development, implementation, and modifications of educational programs and practices. The district ensures progress toward goals, 2019, page 23. By providing funds to address the behavior and social emotional needs of students, as well as to improve quality teaching by strategically allotting funds based on the district and school priorities, the district can reach its goal of providing a rigorous and high-quality education for all students, 2019, page 24. The district has in place well-defined inclusive processes, structures, and tools to support the use of high-quality, standards-aligned curricular material to ensure all students have access to high-quality teaching and learning. In addition, teachers have a clear sense of content and instructional expectations and resources available to effectively deliver the material, 2019, page 27. The district provides a range of that challenging academic coursework and experiences that encourages choice, addresses student diverse needs, skills, readiness levels, and ensures that all students have equitable access to high-quality, rigorous education, 2019, page 29. The district provides high-quality, specifically timed and actionable feedback, particularly feedback after walkthroughs that are most valuable in improving instruction, 2019, page 39. The district promotes opportunities for teacher leadership by encouraging teachers to assume leadership positions, such as department chairs. The district has built capacity to track and implement its educational evaluation system and retain effective professional staff and maximize their impact, 2019, page 40. Under my leadership, the district has overcome significant barriers, as demonstrated by the overwhelming evidence. The student growth and achievement have flourished, and new opportunities have been and continue to be created through my collaborative leadership approach with all staff. The evaluation was a mean-spirited, personal attack on my character, which ignored accomplishments which had been occurring within the district. I have learned and have grown a great deal since my beginning as superintendent in Wareham. The challenges faced were immense, and as noted in my opening statement. Nonetheless, Even with those challenges, our students are beginning to enter into a world of opportunity they never imagined, and the staff are actively engaged in the initiatives that have been implemented. I'm extremely proud of all the hard work and dedication of our students, staff, and parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone? Okay. Thank you. Moving on. Report of the school committee. Recommendations from Policy Review Committee. First one, public participation at school committee meetings.
I wasn't there.
I think, Ms. Rosser, did you chair that one?
I did, yes. I'm just opening the documents I usually open. Chromebook was not charged, so I just have to locate them in a really teeny document on my phone.
I have mine. Do you want to borrow mine?
That would be delightful.
They're all together, you have to keep them.
That's fine, thank you. Okay, so at the recent meeting of the Policy Review Committee, we went through the following policy changes. For public participation, or for public comment had been previously the policy at school committee meetings. We are changing the word comment to public participation. In the second paragraph, where it had previously said that the meetings were held at Wareham Middle School on the first and third Wednesdays of each month, we are deleting that sentence, and it will read, regular meetings are customarily held at the multi-service center as scheduled. In the fourth paragraph, there will be a few changes as well. As stated, as currently it states, at the beginning of each regular meeting of the committee, there will be a period of up to 15 minutes time set aside for public comment. Citizens may address the committee on items of school business. The first half of that sentence, at the beginning of each regular meeting, the committee has been deleted. And it will now read, there will be a period of time set aside for public participation. Citizens may address a committee on school items of business. So it has been changed to that. Also, any other place in the policy where it had previously said public comment is changed to public participation. Yeah, so the next one that we went over was the school committee's standing.
We have to vote.
Oh, do we have to
Yeah,
vote
yeah,
on
we're
it? I
gonna-
wasn't sure if
Yeah,
we voted
one
in
at a
committee.
time. Yeah, one at a
Okay.
time. So, any questions or comments on the public participation at school committee meetings policy? Ms. Spear?
So, we removed 15 minutes and wrote set aside time?
For a set time, because.
What's the set time?
So, there was a proposal by Colleen Kinsman as well as Dr. Shaverhood to try two different methods for encouraging public participation. One was to set aside like 15-minute or periods of time in between. 5 minutes, like up to in between certain agenda items for people to address those specific agenda items, to see if that was the most effective use of the public participation. And the second one was to start the meetings at 6:30 to allow for the public to come prior to the scheduled 7 p.m. school committee meeting to address any public concerns that they have there. So they were going to test out both ways. But by wording it as there will be a period of time, it would be a procedural change and not necessarily a policy change. So by wording it as the change is worded would cover the policy to be vague enough that the procedure could then dictate whether it's during the agenda items or half an hour prior.
So I'm just, great, but saying vague is, so are we going to re-amend a policy again, depending on which one we pick?
No, that's why if it says it's up to a period of time, it would cover either way, which we went forward. So going forward, The only change would be procedural, not policy, so it can vary from school committee to school committee or vary, you know, depending on how it's voted for each, whatever's gonna be the most effective, I guess, without having to then go back and change the policy over and over again.
Can I ask a question? So
Ms. Bakayaki?
if it was at 6:30, does that mean the meeting would start at 6:30, or would there would just be a half an hour before the meeting at 7?
I believe it was, Dr. Shaverhood, that was your suggestion, correct?
If, yeah, if people want to come and talk.
Yeah, so if they had an item to address regarding the agenda without extending the agenda, because some people's concern with the public participation was the elongating of the meetings on certain agenda items. So the proposal was to try a half an hour before the meetings so that any concerns could be addressed, and then I believe would be mentioned by the chair during the meeting starting at its regular time.
All right, so we're just going to try it
Well, we
based
gotta-
on what?
Well, we're gonna vote.
No, I know.
We may or may not adopt it, but if so, that's what I infer, that we show up at 6:30 instead of 7. I think we'd need a quorum to actually kind of, you know, deliberate.
that's
It's
what I
tough
mean.
enough getting a quorum at 7. But I saw Ms. Spear had her hand up.
Is there any thought of limiting time per, we have now still 30 minutes, so is there a plan on limiting time per person? Obviously reading farther into the policy, you can see what can be talked about, what can't, but, 37 people show up, which may be unlikely, but, does each one get a minute? Does someone have a time limit of 3 minutes, 4 minutes? Is there a thought of how it's going to work besides 30 minutes before a meeting?
Again, I think that would have been something more procedural and probably up for discussion depending on attendance. That wasn't discussed in this particular meeting, just the wording of the policy was all we discussed when I was there.
If I'm not mistaken, something like that would be up to the chair.
Which
Is
part?
it of how long someone
Yeah.
is able to talk.
Well,
I believe it does state that it's up to the discretion of the chair for all public participation, so I assume that would mean, yeah. I think
I
that's
just,
right.
I understand the well-meaning goal, but I don't think it's workable, honestly, to meet a half hour early and do this. It's, like I said, it's tough enough getting a quorum at 7. It basically extends the meeting. I'd much rather, and so let's say you're done with public participation to ask questions about agenda items, then what, you now can't speak toward agenda items when you learn something after it's presented. Like, I think it's much more effective and meaningful to have discussions during the meeting and let the chair, limit the time as required or necessary. It's not like, I would suggest not making it, a right, but as time, allows, to take public comment during agenda items.
Yeah, that's why we tried to keep it, to change it, whereas it said up to 15 minutes of time set aside, like on the agenda. Currently, we have 15 minutes for public comment, whether it's used or not, we announce it. So that's why the change in the policy would just to state that there will be a period of time set aside for public participation and citizens may address the committee. So it could be, like I said, more of that falls into the procedural side where we would decide as a committee if we want to say like every, 4 agenda items, does anyone have to speak to those previous items with a certain time allotted by the chair or at the chair's discretion, and then continue on with the next few agenda items, again, present, does anyone have not to exceed a certain amount of time, I believe 5-minute or however many intervals that the chair would, determine is relevant for each item, or depending on the participation, if any. It could be a moot point. We do have, we don't see much in public participation, currently, but that could be, again, part of that was why the change went from comment to participation, because the way that things were worded, it was, assumed by several people that we weren't able to address those comments, and they were just coming to speak and felt unheard, so it may have discouraged people in the past from coming to participate if they felt that they weren't actually participating or we weren't able to communicate with them was the gist of what I got from the meeting from the other people on the committee.
Okay.
So, whenever this comes up, there's like two things at work. It's just the public, well, right now it's the public comment policy, but this is the area at the beginning of the meeting, we usually set aside 15 minutes or so. And what kind of brought this to light was, it was changed some time ago from public participation to public comment, where people would just show up and, you know, you comment and the committee wouldn't really, you know, be able to address them. We ran this through school council, and they said that actually that's not true. I mean, the title might have changed, but the wording, the existing wording allowed for that. I mean, I'd be fine with just taking this document and replacing comment with participation and calling it a day.
I mean, that was all the other changes, especially where the meetings were and what days they were held.
Sure.
Being changed, and then to change that there will be a period of time up to 15 minutes. The only thing that we removed was the up to 15 minutes, and added the word time instead. That way, it could be encompassed however the committee wants to go going forward in the usage or the segments of the participation. So those were the only changes, other than changing all the words comment to participation.
So if we did that, if we changed the comments to, you know, participate, if we changed comments to participation, changed the location, and said, you know, took out the 15 minutes, we could still start at 7 o'clock, right?
Correct.
And have a,
Yep.
you know, 15-minute, like we do now, like, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
The starting early and the 5-minute intervals were just suggestions to see what a best practice would be for community involvement, trying to interest more people in actually participating, I believe was the purpose of attempting to try both ways to see which got a better response from the public.
Ms. Morgan, did you have anything? No. All right. So, I'd entertain a motion to delete up to 15, the portion that says up to 15 minutes, change all occurrences of comment to participation, and what else?
The location
And the location.
and dates.
And what dates?
We changed it to as scheduled,
Sure.
Instead of putting, you know, twice a month, just because there are instances where with holidays and other special events, that way we're not locked into if we do have to postpone a meeting and have one extend out, we're not stuck, policy bound if it ends up not falling more than one in a month.
So I think I'm asking to just
Accept the changes as noted.
Yeah, sure.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah. I like it. So we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500.
Okay, so the next policy that we reviewed to change was the school committee standing rules of procedure. The only change to that is under conduct of meetings in part 2. As currently it reads, any member of the, number 4, any member of the public wishing to make a brief statement of general concern on an agenda item may, prior to the meeting, request permission in writing from the chair. Any such statement shall be addressed to the chair. The public will be recognized at the discretion of the chair. And in conjunction with the previously voted policy, what they were looking to do is for it to delete the words prior to the meeting and the to request permission in writing, to read, any member of the public wishing to make a brief statement of general concern on an agenda item may request permission from the chair. Any such statement shall be addressed to the chair, the public discretion of the chair.
Any questions, comments? So if I read that correctly, that as is, that would allow public participation during agenda items.
So what it means is, right now, if the public wanted to make a statement, they would have had to, even during public participation, the way it reads, would have had to, prior to the meeting, request permission in writing from you. Now, if they show up to the public participation, you can recognize them. That is their permission,
yeah,
and they
it-
can address the committee.
But it's more than just the public participation section of the meeting, right? It's the whole meeting.
It just says a statement of general concern on an agenda item, so it would probably be at whatever time at the chair's discretion, at whatever time
Yeah.
we put for the public participation would be
Yeah.
at your discretion, so.
Okay. I think I like it. Anyone else, anyone want to discuss it?
No, it makes sense, goes along with the other policy.
Okay. Yeah, at the discretion of the chair. I mean, so, the big thing you gotta worry about with this is time. I mean, things can get out of hand, so if the chair says, listen, we've heard enough comments, then.
Exactly,
move on.
that's why it continues to be at the discretion of
Yeah.
the chair.
Okay. All right, any further discussion on that? All right, take a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second it.
Yeah, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500. Thank you.
Okay, the next one was the educational research. I believe we didn't, nope, I'm sorry, what was this one?
I think it was, yeah, educational
Hold on, I'm
research.
looking, no, I'm in a different order. So for educational research, there were a couple of changes. The first was mostly it was just updating the revisions from the Code of Federal Regulations. They had previously, as of number 4, under educational research, it said informed consent will be sought from each prospective subject or subject's legally authorized representative in accordance with and to the extent required by the Code of Federal Regulations, 45 CFR 46, Protection of Human Rights, number 46.117. It had previously hadn't been updated. It was revised last, prior to this meeting, March 8th, 1983. That regulation, through the Code of Federal Regulations, was updated October 1st, 2010, and that's what this change will reflect. The second change is also another update of the Code of Federal Regulations for number 5, again, updating the revision date from March 8th, 1983 to the most recent of February 16th, 2016. So those are the only two changes to that policy regarding educational research, was just to update the federal revisions so that they were up to date. So we still follow the procedure, but whatever the most updated from the federal government.
Yeah, that's one of the most frustrating things about being on a policy review. Usually, it's really just, formalizing law that you have no choice.
Yes.
So with that, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second it.
All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Ms. Bakayuki stepped out, so that's 400.
Okay, so the next one, I'm sorry, Michelle, this one doesn't have a title. Can you look at this and just clarify what that is for me?
Probably AP.
Yeah, the next one, yeah, it's the AP testing.
That's the end of the one you just.
I just wasn't sure what those went to, so that's great, thank you. Okay, so the next one was regarding AP testing. And what this, was to add, IB at the request of the high school principal, so that this policy will read AP/IB testing as opposed to just AP testing, and to add students who take 3 or more AP/IB tests may apply for funds to offset the cost of additional tests. Those are the only changes to that.
Any discussion? All right, I actually have some I'd like to ask about this. So, all right, it says, hardship situations at the direction of the high school principal. Let's see. Parents shall pay, students who take 3 or more AP/IB tests may apply for funds to offset the cost of additional tests. Like, which account would that come out
It's
of?
grant funded.
Oh, grant funded.
Yeah,
Well, right
it's-
now, currently, it is grant funded, so all of the testing is taken care of through Title IV, which was a new grant that we were given, I want to say, 3 years ago.
So there's been no cost to students?
There's a cost, but it's minimal. So what we do is we look at the low-income numbers, and wherever where they qualify, some students will pay $5, some will pay $10, some will pay more depending upon their income. But once they hit that third test, which a lot of students are involved, say you're not low income, and you're one of those families that, that often pay, what happens is that the bill is huge at that point, and so the principal is insistent on trying everything he can to cover that, and with the grant that we have now, we can also do that, which is good.
All right, so
Oh, just also, by the way, the principal had asked for that just to be covered. The policy subcommittee had a discussion about this, indicating that they would like the students that were taking them to apply somehow, to write a letter or a request for the funding, and so that's why that sentence is in there.
Okay.
It was at the request of the policy subcommittee.
Okay. I've had sort of a, how do I put it? The way it's always been done, I think it's probably not reflected here, but I think it's in the student handbook. But the de facto policy through the high school is that if you sign up for AP, then you must take the AP exam.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like to hear some thoughts on doing away with that requirement, because it really, I know it deters some kids from taking it, because taking these courses, because they may not feel strong enough to take the exam. And I'd like to know what people's thoughts are on removing that requirement.
I think we'd have talked to Scott.
I think that having that conversation would be fine, but I think the high school principal should be here for that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's where I'm coming at from that. And also, I had prepared some verbiage for that, so I guess it ultimately we'll probably table this until the next meeting, but I think that this policy also could be a good opportunity to, do a little, marketing too, and spruce it up a little bit, and, kind of have a little preamble that says, AP, IB courses are, provide an opportunity for students to, to challenge themselves with some of Wareham's most rigorous academic offerings, something like that, but then also incorporate, I'd love to see that, students are highly encouraged to take the AP, IB test, but there's no requirement to do so. But I understand that really deserves, the high school principal to be here, but just to kind of grease the skids, So I guess I'd entertain a motion to table this to our January 9th meeting.
So is this policy just regarding payment
Yes.
of, so I think that's a completely different, this is just regarding the
This is
payment
just,
of-
this is just this is just that they are able to apply for funds to offset the cost
I
and
don't
to
see
just
anything
add
else about
IB
taking
to the
it.
AP
Yeah.
testing.
So
The policy, that would be under either handbook or I believe like procedure for the principal going forward, but this just sets the general policy.
right, currently, but the title, was, AP testing. I mean, so you
A
could.
recommendation to add testing payment to the title for this versus. and
Yeah.
that's
Or a
what it's about.
subcategory of it.
When do we do what is it, the course of studies? When do we approve those for next year?
It's been requested for the next meeting.
Okay, so that'll work out fine. So, all right, so I guess, would you recommend changing it to AP/IB testing payment?
Fees, maybe.
Fees, all right, fees.
So
Okay.
adding fees to AP, IB testing, and then anything else procedural would come up at the next meeting with the principal.
Yeah, so we could vote on this today, now, with now, kind of like setting in stone that this is really just about fees. I would be okay with that, but one thing, just somewhere in here at the beginning, the first occurrence of AP/IB, just spell it out, so people know what it is. Advanced placement / international baccalaureate, because we know what it means, but,
I think that's a good idea to spell it out at least the
agree.
first time. or at least in the title and then maybe in the body that
Yeah.
continue with the APIB.
But then you got a huge title.
It's okay, but I agree with that.
So, yeah, so we're gonna fully expand the title?
So, I believe that, from what I'm understanding, that the proposed changes would be, the title would be AP/IB testing, keeping, fees, adding the word fees, I apologize, and then spelling out for the first, in the first sentence where it says, AP/IB, to spell out advanced placement and international baccalaureate, and then add the, sentence, students who take 3 or more AP/IB tests may apply for funds to offset the cost of additional tests.
Is that a motion?
So moved.
Okay.
Michelle, did you get that? Okay. I tried to make sure I talked slow, I promise.
So there was the motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any
Yes.
opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500.
Okay, and the next policy that we reviewed, was just for entrance age, and it was to delete, wording, under, number 1, under entrance age, where it says effective the 2015-2016 school year. So we're just deleting that line as unnecessary. And the next change would be to delete the sentence, completion of a full year in any kindergarten approved by the superintendent of schools is a prerequisite for entrance into grade 1.
Ms. Bakayaki?
So we're deleting that sentence, is that because it's repetitive? Because it says it also in the next sentence?
Yes.
That's still a requirement.
Well, I get, Dr. Shaver-Hood had pointed out, I think, at that meeting that kindergarten is not required, but they would have to go through Wareham's entrance age policy, which is stated above, that they must meet the testing, to be the readiness testing for first grade, I believe.
If they will be 6 years old. Children who do not meet Wareham's entrance age policy for first grade. So if they do meet the entrance policy for first grade, they can come in without a year of kindergarten? Is that how that reads? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Motion to approve?
So moved.
Second
Second?
it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500.
Okay, and the last was, we reviewed the policy on guest speakers, and we made no change to that policy. It just was reviewed. And so I don't think we need to vote on anything regarding that.
Well, no, we'll just, reaffirm it if anything. So does anyone have any questions or comments on the existing policy? All right, so motion to approve as is.
So moved.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
so-
second.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 500.
Okay, I'm now just passing out the report on the MASC resolutions from the joint conference in November. I was the delegate for Wareham. Does everyone have one, or I need more? I have one. Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
So there was quite a lot of debate on some items at the resolutions, and then there was minimal on others. There were members of every school committee statewide at the delegation, which it was fascinating. I was extremely proud to represent Wareham at the conference and as the delegate. So the first resolution that was up was submitted by Silver Lake Regional District about banning polystyrene from schools, and this was passed. So therefore, resolved, the MASC urged the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to ban the use of expanded polystyrene foam cups, bowls, plates, and trays from Massachusetts public schools by the 2022-2023 school year. That was the first resolution that was voted.
Just, can I interject?
Yep.
Just for the public reading at home, so this, just because this was approved doesn't mean it's a law. This is our trade organization, I guess you'd say, the Massachusetts Association of School Committees group that we're a part of, and they passed their support on that particular item, so they're gonna, advocate for that at the State House, I'm sure.
And all these resolutions are available on the MASC website. And there were 107 districts that were represented at the assembly, which was pretty cool. The second resolution was split into two parts. And this was one that was definitely one of the more heated debates at the conference. The resolution was pertaining to educator diversity and professional licensure. So it was resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees calls for the elimination of the MTEL and the MA Performance Assessment for Leaders, MPAL, as licensing requirements. So that was how it was originally presented. The vote, however, it was amended with two discrete resolutions. The first was that the Massachusetts Association of School Committee calls for the elimination of the MTEL as licensing requirements for educators. That would be Part 2A. 2A passed, and it was a split vote 54-24, so it was a call vote. And the second was, and now this is for the license, the people who license the teachers to have, it's kind of a weird way to word it for the public, but, and the second part was the licensing issue that the committee calls for the governance and licensure of professional educators to be vested in a board comprised of licensed educators, because currently that board apparently was not comprised of licensed educators. And that passed in a unanimous vote. So.
Mary's waving at it.
I'm sorry, can
Sorry.
I just ask a request, because I have to get up really early tomorrow? Can we just do half tonight and half next time?
Are you okay with that?
I'm okay with that. It doesn't, whatever is easier to you, I can go through maybe one or two more and then switch. Some of them were pretty fast. I can speed through it if that's easier. I do speak very fast. So again, that was probably the most contentious vote, and it was again asked to be split because at first this was as one resolution. The second resolution regarding school transportation was in order to promote it was presented by the Hudson School District, and it said as a friendly, therefore be it resolved that in order to promote greater competition for bus service contracts and improve performance, MASC calls for the creation of a working group to advise the legislature on the best solutions to support greater competition and higher performance from transportation companies. Be it further resolved that in order to promote greater competition for bus service contracts, the legislature should eliminate Mass General Law C-71 at 7C and authorize a deeper analysis into lack of bidders on school contracts. So it was changed to, in order to promote that the MASC is going to file and support legislation to appeal the law. It had not been done. It was a suggestion of the legislature, but obviously the legislature was not at the resolution hearing, so that amendment was proposed and accepted. And the second was proposed to add additional language that the MSC, again, will file and support legislation to appeal regarding, so that will be pending further legislative action. The fourth resolution was on climate change, and it was resolved that the MASC calls on Congress and the Massachusetts legislature to take swift and effective action on climate change to protect current and future students. Be it resolved that MASC advocates for state and federal funding for school infrastructure need and emergency funding for disaster relief caused by natural catastrophes and extreme weather events, and that resolution was adopted. Resolution 5 was full funding of transportation costs for students in foster care and state care, and that resolution was adopted. Resolution 6, universal quality pre-K access in Massachusetts. It was amended that MASC file a support legislation that will provide a full capital and operating appropriation for universal pre-K and universal full-day kindergarten in Massachusetts and will achieve the actions necessary to provide access to good quality universal pre-K and universal full-day kindergarten for all children in Massachusetts. That resolution was adopted. Resolution 7 was poverty and children. The resolution was presented that the Massachusetts Association of School Committee prioritize as a matter of its public policy agenda and file for and support legislation to support the eradication of poverty among children in Massachusetts and advocate for social and economic justice for students and their families, with a list of what that will include, and that was also adopted. Resolution 8 was a resolution for access to menstrual supplies, and that was adopted. Resolution 9 was for charter school reform. And it was resolved that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees seek legislative action to both address and the deleterious effect of charter school funding on certain municipalities and school districts across the state, and approve a comprehensive set of reforms that include establishment of strict guidelines or regulations to require that charter schools enroll representative cross-sections of students residing within the school service areas, reporting of accurate numbers of students who leave charter schools to return to their sending districts or district of residence, require that Mass Department of Elementary and Secondary Education retain and report accurate data on enrollment of students with learning disabilities, physical disabilities, economic disadvantage, emotional disability, and status as racial and linguistic minorities. State requirements that all charter schools be funded in full by the Commonwealth rather than by expropriation of Chapter 70 education aid from the sending cities, towns, and regions. State funding in full of any mitigation funds created to offset the loss of state funding for students who become students in charter schools, and that resolution was adopted.
Good job.
Thank you. Oh, and then it was just, there was a change, amendments to the MASC bylaws, and those were also adopted as presented.
All right, any questions for Ms. Rossi? All right, thank you. All right, here we are. So, Subcommittee for Superintendent Evaluation Instrument. So at the last meeting, Ms. Bakayaki had expressed some robust interest in you know, working toward improving the evaluation instrument, or seeing if we should adopt the new one and what have you. And I think Ms. Morgan expressed, you know, some willingness to join Ms. Bakayaki in that endeavor. So to that end, I am creating a subcommittee Subcommittee for the Superintendent Evaluation Instrument. This is one of the few areas that the chair can actually just wave a magic wand and make it happen. I don't need a vote. This is just, you know, assigning things. So Ms. Bakayaki, you are the chair of this subcommittee, and Ms. Morgan, you are on it as well. And so as chair, you can decide whoever you need to, you know, be on it and make recommendations back to the school committee. Just you can't pick any more school committee members. That's all.
Right.
And this is a formal subcommittee, so you do need to post, agendas and do meeting minutes and the whole bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, congratulations.
Thank you, I think. Yes, thank you for taking that into consideration.
Yeah, no, it's a good idea, and I had walked away from that meeting thinking it could be done pretty informally, where you guys would just get together and brainstorm, but I ran it by Mask, and they said, no, it had to be really, formal.
Okay.
Now, go ahead, Dr. Schwam.
A recommendation that I would suggest would be that there would be some training on the actual evaluation system and how it is supposed to work by law and by statute and by all of those elements, because I think that it seems that there's some confusion
Training.
on the system itself, on why it is the way that it is, how it's approved, and understanding what each of the standards actually mean, what's evidence, what does evidence look like, so that when you do look at the system itself, that if whoever comes in has the ability to actually understand what it is that's required when you are doing such an evaluation. And because of the extensive experience that we have in our system, and DESE actually recommends that school committees adopt the system that's been adopted by the state or approved by the state through the school. They recommend that that's how it's done. I just think it's a really good idea to be really clear about what that means.
Well, my first year on the committee, the chair did bring in a trainer from Mask, and we had a training, so I know that that's available. So, okay, thank you.
So, with that, any other business? Seeing none. All right, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes 5-0-0. We're adjourned.